The baby blanket I'm knitting is about 30 inches wide, and it will be a square, so it will be 30 inches tall as well. This is how the right side looks, and this is how the wrong side looks. Both sides are very pretty. And the edge here curls, which I like a lot because it makes it like a double line here going up. I like it a lot. Let's get started. For this edging, I use my favorite cast on, but you can do any cast on you like, or you prefer, or you know. I take the end of my yarn, I fold it in two, but you have to make it as long as you need to for your number of stitches. And then I get the working yarn around my neck, so I have a better tension control over it. And then I just start casting on my stitches. And for this little tutorial, I'll do 24 stitches, but for the blanket, you need to do the number you need, or in my case, I did 196 stitches. So we're just gonna go like that. And you keep those really loose, those stitches really loose, so you don't want the edge of the blanket to bunch up. So give them a little space, and just go like this till the number of stitches you need, because this is a yarn that changes its colors. When I folded the yarn in two, it made it into colors, but this one it didn't, because I started very short. Oops, I need to switch the stitches here. And let's count. Okay, I have 21. 23, I think, or 24. If I have one more, I will just remove that one at the end. And over here, we'll start with the first stitch. I usually do not knit it. I just take it. And then we're gonna have 3 knit stitches. The first one, we consider it knit, but we're just gonna have 4 knit stitches, and then we're gonna have 1 purl. And we're gonna have 4 knit. And you have to be careful here and count precisely and be focused because we can miss and make more than we need. So we're gonna have 1 purl and then 4 knit, and we're gonna end up with 4 knit stitches. That's why we have 1 less multiple of 5s. Okay, 4, and then we have 1 knit. Well, 1 purl. We have 4 knits. 3, 4. Yep, that was 1 too many. So I'm gonna end up with this one. Just making sure when I finish the edges, I make sure this does not come off, and I'll tuck it in the stitches inside. I'll just weave it in. So when I go to the back to the wrong side, I'm moving my yarn as if to knit, but I don't. I just take my first stitch of the needle, and then I gonna do 4 purls, or actually 3 purls, because we have 4 stitches at the beginning. And then we have a knit stitch here. We're gonna knit, and then we're gonna purl 4, and then we're gonna knit 1. So we're gonna purl the purls and we're gonna knit the knits. And let me show you how I do the end and the beginning as well. And we knit the knit. I'm not sure which side I like better, the wrong side or the right side, because it's very pretty when you look at the back. I like those lines going up. So that's why I like this blanket, because on both sides it will look nice. So I'm at the last 4 knit purl stitches. Actually, they're purl stitches, and I'm gonna purl all 4 of them, and then I'll turn, and then I'll take the first stitch as if to purl, so my yarn in the front, and I'll move my yarn in the back so I can knit now. So taking the first stitch and then knitting the next 3 there, and then we purl the purl, and then we knit the knits. Such a mindless project, but it goes so fast, and it's not only good for blankets, but it makes great sweaters as well. And you can see the bumps of the purls now, making those grooves. And the back, so pretty. And now I'll give you the yarn that I'm using, the number of stitches, and some details. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. So here's the end. I just knit the last stitch. And when I need to start on the wrong side here, I'm taking it to the back as if to knit. I just slide the first stitch off, and then I take my yarn to the front to purl those 3 purl stitches that are actually a group of 4. And we have here, and I just keep going just like this. When it's time to cast off, when I finish my project, I will be casting off purling. So I still want to have that purl bumps at the beginning, so I'll take 2 at a time. I'll purl them and then put my stitch back to my needle, and then grab the next 2 and purl them too, and put my stitch back, and I'll do it loosely, not too tight, and it gives me that bumpy edge as well. And I'm wondering, should I add a crochet edge too? But I like how it looks actually. So it could be a choice to put a crochet shells at the end if you want. Here's how to find how many stitches you need for your project, or at least this is how I do it. So I use my project book to keep track of my patterns, and this is how a blank page looks before I fill it in. And I got my yarn. It's a 3-weight yarn for this blanket, and I usually do a little bit bigger swatch, but this one will help me determine it. I also need a calculator. I use 4 inches to determine the swatch. So my 4 inches make it, without stretching too much, about 23 stitches for my 4 inches. And the way I do the math is I know that for my gauge, I need 23 stitches. The rows doesn't matter in a blanket because we can decide how tall to be. And I'm gonna be using the same knitting needles, so I keep that in mind. It's 4.5 millimeters. So my 23 stitches are 4 inches. If I want to make a 30-inch blanket, how many stitches do I need is the question. So we cross multiply here, and that's what we get. We have to multiply 23 by 30. 23 by 30. We have 690. And then we have to divide by 4. Divide by 4. So we got 172.5. However, we know that our pattern is multiples of 5 plus 4, or multiples of 5 minus 1. So we need to have a number that's close to 172, but it's also divisible by 5. So if I want, and we cannot have half a stitch anyway. So if I do 172 stitches, divided by 5, we got 34.4. We cannot have a half a stitch anyway, so 172 doesn't work. So we need to find the closest number that's going to be divisible by 5. So it's going to be 170, right? Because that's divisible by 5. Divide by 5, it's 34. We got it. So we have 170. We found that 170 will work for us. Now we either have to add 4 or we have to subtract 1. So I subtracted 1 actually, and that's how I ended with 179 stitches to begin with. That was my math behind the whole project. So for the rows, it doesn't really matter. I actually go by the color change of the yarn. So I like that a lot. It's such a cute color. So I will start my project with 169 stitches will be casted on, and then I'll have 4 knits, and then I'll have 1 purl, and then I'll have 4 knits again till I reach the last 4, which will be 4 knits. So that's what I'm gonna be repeating. And that's the first row. And then the second row will be 4 purls, 1 knit, and I'll repeat that till the last 4 purls. And that's all. That's my blanket, and that's how I go deciding the number of stitches I need, and how you need a little bit of calculating to get that final number. Happy knitting! Subscribe. Catch you in the next one.